Thank you, Mark. As Mark said, I'm Bill Millette. I'm an Army veteran, 28 years in the Army Reserve. This is one of my stories. It's November 8th, 2004. My son Liam will be turning 7 today. I won't be with him. I'm in Baghdad commanding a civil affairs company operating in an area that includes Sardis City, a poverty-stricken district crammed with more than 1 million Shia Muslims. 7 months ago, an uprising there resulted in 8 Americans killed and more than 50 wounded in a single day of fighting. Conditions have improved a bit since then, but they remain tense. During my first conversation with my boss, the brigade commander, when I had informed him that the company of 42 civil affairs soldiers then assigned to his brigade would be replaced by my company of just 24 soldiers, the commander looked me squarely in the eye and told me he needed me to maintain the same number of teams as the unit we were replacing. We had done that, but it had meant stripping my command element down to the bare minimum. And while my predecessor had had 3 other officers working with him, I'm getting by with a corporal. What I'm not getting is a lot of sleep. Our mission today involved meetings in the Green Zone and a stop by our battalion to address administrative and logistical issues. As we are preparing to return to our FOB, I am summoned to the commander's office for an urgent call. My life, the lives of my soldiers, and the lives of my and my soldiers' families are forever altered, as I learned that one of my soldiers, Corporal Brian L. Freeman Jr., has been killed by a sniper's bullet outside the Al-Zahra Mosque. It is November 8th, 2005, Liam's 8th birthday, and 1 year since Sergeant Freeman's death. I am home from Iraq. I am serving as the ops officer for the 443rd Civil Affairs Battalion in Warwick, Rhode Island. While I have already been away from my position working with parachutes for the Army for more than 3 years, I have agreed to remain on orders to help the 443rd get back on track for what is sure to be another mobilization in the near future. My home life is not really on track, though. While my time in Iraq had been my 3rd mobilization, it was the first since the birth of our 2 sons. Readjustment has not been easy. I came home to a different house, literally and figuratively. While I was in Iraq, my wife had informed me that she wasn't comfortable in our first home, that she felt the neighborhood had deteriorated while we had been away as I studied Arabic at the Defense Language Institute, and that she no longer felt it was safe for her and the boys. Half a world away, struggling with too few people and too little sleep, I was in no position to do anything but acquiesce to her request to move. And so, capable woman that she is, she'd bought a new house, sold our first, and moved from one to the other almost entirely on her own. Unfortunately, she had also shed some of my belongings during that move. I'm angry about this. I'm angry about other issues related to the move. I'm angry because my wife has been operating for so long without me that it no longer seems as if I have a place in the family. I'm angry because I am almost certainly suffering from undiagnosed PTSD. It is November 8th, 2011. Liam is turning 14, and Sergeant Freeman has been dead for 7 years. I am just home from a year in Djibouti as the Deputy Director of Civil Military Operations at the Combined Joint Task Force, Horn of Africa. My time in Africa was professionally rewarding, but my personal life is in shambles. My wife faced the challenge of running a household and raising 2 boys on her own again during my deployment, one struggling through middle school with ADHD, the other bored and sometimes disruptive at its elementary school. Despite having more opportunities for communication than on any previous deployment, we have grown increasingly distant and apart. And in the months to come, we will participate in counseling to work towards salvaging our relationship. It is November 8th, 2020. Liam turned 23 today. Sergeant Freeman was killed by a sniper's bullet 16 years ago at age 31. A photo of his gravesite at the Beverly National Cemetery in New Jersey serves as the lock screen on my iPhone. He is in my thoughts daily, but particularly on this day, the anniversary of his death. I've been retired from the Army Reserves for 5 years. The VA has diagnosed me with PTSD and provided me with counseling. I still work for the Army with personnel parachutes, and I have recently returned from investigating a fatal accident at Fort Stewart, Georgia. I have participated in a dozen or so of these investigations, which my VA counselor believes aggravates my PTSD. In this case, that's almost certainly true. This investigation was easily the most tumultuous of any I've participated in, leaving me drained and dejected. I'm at a low point. I've never felt so distant and disconnected in all aspects of my life. The pandemic is almost certainly intensifying things, but just the baseline is bad enough. My wife and I share hardly any intimacy, either physically or emotionally. She seems wedded to her job while I am burnt out by mine. I always struggle on this day, a day that once signified only a celebration of Liam's birth, but that now serves also as a reminder of the costs of war, and particularly a war that didn't need to be fought. This year is worse than any before. I've had thoughts of committing suicide in the past, but they are more present and persistent now than ever before. I have known soldiers who took their lives after returning from war. I don't want to do it. I don't want to bring pain to others, but I don't want to live it the way I'm feeling. It is May 24th, 2021, graduation day for PCVI. There is so much I would like to share with you about this course, but time is limited, so I'm going to share just a few words from a story we read by Siobhan Fallon titled, "You Survived the War, Now Survive the Homecoming." In the story, Ted and Carla are a couple with a newborn who are experiencing readjustment issues after Ted has returned from Iraq. Ted is feeding the baby after they have argued, and he has just thanked Carla for helping him. "You're welcome," she said, staring at him. She could lift Mimi from his arms and breastfeed her properly, or she could remain like this, her fingertips on Ted's pulse. And suddenly it seemed as if this was the most important moment of her life, that either small gesture was larger than any decision she had ever made. Their fate depended on whether Carla walked out of the room with the baby or stood next to her husband. She bit her lip and wondered if this was the sum of a marriage. Wordless recriminations or reconciliations, every breath either striving against or toward the other person. Each second a decision to exert or abdicate the self. And that, it seems, is life. Small choices with big implications. I made a small choice to enroll in PCVI, and it has had an enormous effect on me. Thank you.